What's going on, Diablo 2 fans? This is Dobrunsky, and today I finally bring you episode 2 from the Human Bot Project series. Today, we're going to be doing 10,000 Lower Kurast runs. Let's see what kind of high runes we find on this epic journey. I found nothing worth showing until run number 88 when I find my first Mal rune. On run 194, I find my first high rune. A Vex rune. Nearly 100 runs later, I find my first Skiller Grand Charm.
Good day.
It's a 1 to cold skills Sorceress Grand Charm. 6 runs later, I find my second high rune. A Sewer rune. Run 320, I find my second Mal rune. On run 367, I find a Skiller Grand Charm with plus life.
Hello.
It's a 1 to summoning skills, 18 to life Druid Grand Charm. 59 runs later, I find a useful mid rune. This time, it's a pull rune. Run number 527, I find another high rune. This time, it's an Ohm rune. 17 runs later, I find my second pull rune. On run 629, I find a Druid Skiller Grand Charm.
Good day.
It's a plain 1 to elemental skills. 64 runs later, I find my first rune. At 799 Lower Kurast runs, I find my first low rune. This is the rarest high rune that can drop from the Lower Kurast super chest on player's 8 difficulty. Exactly 20 runs later, I find my third pull rune. Run 849, I find my second Sewer rune. I can now cube up to a Burr rune if I want to. Run number 1014, I find another high rune, my third Sewer rune. Nearly 230 runs later, I find my second low rune. I find 3 small charms over the next 218 Lower Kurast runs.
Good day.
19 to life, 11% fire resistance, small charm.
Stay a while. Listen.
3 to max damage, 20 to attack rating, 1 to 10 lightning damage, small charm.
Yes.
And a 2 to strength, 10% fire resistance, small charm. On run 1571, I find my first Gull rune. Almost 100 runs later, I find a very useful small charm.
Hello.
Plain 5 to all resistance, small charm. I find 3 nice mid runes over the next 200 runs. 2 Lem runes and 1 rune. Run 1895, Lower Kurast Super Chest drop me a godly Skiller Grand Charm.
Yes.
Plus 1 to traps, 30 to life, Assassin Grand Charm. Run 1963, I find my 8th high rune. Another Ohm rune. Lower Kurast is really generous over the next 200 runs. I find 2 more high runes, which happen to be 2 Vex runes on run 2054 and 2174. The rune trend continues from run 2247 to run 2358. LK Super Chest dropped me 1 Pole rune, 1 rune, 1 Mal rune, and 1 Ist rune. "100 runs later, I find a Toxic Small Charm that adds 251 poison damage over 10 seconds. LK Super Chest dropped me a Lem rune and a Pole rune back to back on run 2517 and 2518. 25 runs later, I find a very useful Sorceress Skiller Grand Charm. 1 to Lightning Skills, Sorceress Grand Charm. I find 2 more mid runes on run 2654 and 2683, a Mal rune and a Pole rune. On run 2740, LK gives me another high rune, my 4th Sewer rune. 20 runs later, I find 2 Skillers on the same run.
Stay a while and listen.
1 to Shadow Disciplines Assassin Grand Charm, and a 1 to Paladin Defensive Auras Grand Charm. I find 4 more mid runes over the next 100 Lower Kurast runs. 1 Lem rune, 1 Pole rune, 1 Mal rune, and 1 rune. On run 3254, Lower Kurast gives me another Sorceress Grand Charm.
Yes.
+1 to cold skills, 2 to 3 fire damage, Sorceress Grand Charm. Run 3304, I find a Godly PvP Grand Charm.
Greetings.
10 to max damage, 75 to attack rating, 40 to life Grand Charm. Run 3646 is pretty interesting. I find an Ist rune and a Mal rune on the same run. "32 runs later, I find a useful melee small charm. 3 to max damage, 20 to attack rating, 25 poison damage over 5 seconds, small charm. It took 3,700 runs to find something useful off of a Lower Kurast weapon rack. I find my first Ethereal Thresher. I find a useful small charm 41 runs later.
Stay a while and listen.
A 7% magic find, small charm. 3 more mid runes over the next 200 LK runs. A Lem rune and 2 Pole runes. I find 2 more useful small charms on Lower Kurast runs 4511 and 4576.
Stay a while
An
and
11% lightning resistance, 6% MF small charm, and a perfect 20 to life, 11% fire resistance small charm. 2 more Lem runes over the next 200 LK runs. I find a really nice Skiller Grand Charm on run 4797. It's a +1 to fire skills, 12% faster hit recovery, Sorceress Grand Charm. It's been over 1,000 LK runs since my last high rune. On run 4817, I find my 4th Vex rune. I find another melee small charm in the next 100 runs.
stay a while and listen.
3 to max damage, 10 to attack rating, 2 to dexterity, small charm. Over halfway through these runs, I find another skill or grand charm.
Stay a while.
My second, lightning skills, sorceress, grand charm. Lower Kurast drops me another Lem rune on run 5098. It took 5,176 runs to find my first useful magic jewel.
Stay a while.
It's a 6 to minimum damage, 15 to all resistance jewel. 3 more mid runes over the next 200 LK runs. 1 pull rune, 1 rune, and my third Ist rune. I find another 7% MF small charm on run 5770. 5 runs later, Lower Kurast drops me my second Gull rune. 30 runs later, I find another Mal rune. Another nice small charm on run 5916.
Stay a while.
It's a plus 20 to life, plus 5 to mana small charm. More mid-rune drops over the next 100 Lower Kurast runs. It's interesting how on and off the rune drops can be sometimes from the LK super chests. 1 pull rune, 2 Lem runes, and 2 Gull runes. Run 6070, I find a really nice magic jewel. 40% enhanced damage, 5 to maximum damage. 50 runs later, LK gives me another Mal rune. Run 6156, I find another High rune. It's my third Ohm rune. An interesting small charm drops on Lower Kurast run 6086.
Greetings.
It's a 3% faster run walk, 4 to all resistance small charm. A godly small charm drops on run 6305.
Greetings.
It's a 5 to all resistance, 6% magic find small charm. Another Lem rune and pull rune within the next 50 runs. Another useful small charm on run 6472.
Yes.
Another 7% magic find small charm. LK drops my 4th Ist rune on Lower Kurast run 6716. I find another sorceress grand charm almost 100 runs later.
Stay a while and listen.
It's my third lightning skills sorceress grand charm. Another Lem rune on run 6936. On run 7001, a Lower Kurast weapon rack drops me another useful base. This time it's an ethereal wormhide armor. Within 3 more runs, I find another skill or grand charm.
Good to see you.
It's my 4th lightning skills sorceress grand charm. 2 more mid runes on run 7039 and 7091. 1 rune and 1 pull rune. 2 useful small charms on LK run 7105 and 7113.
Stay a while.
A 7% MF 4 to defense small charm, and a plain 7% MF small charm. LK Super Chest drop another mid rune on run 7408, another pull rune. LK Super Chest drop me a nice Amazon Skiller on run 7548. 1 to Javelin skills, 18% extra gold, Amazon Grand Charm. Another Mal rune drops on run 7768. 40 runs later, I find another Sorceress Grand Charm, but this time it has useful secondary mods. 1 to lightning skills, 7% faster run walk, Grand Charm. My 5th Gull Rune drops from LK about 100 runs later. I find another useful jewel 2 runs later. It's a 15% all resistance, 4 to maximum damage jewel. Back-to-back Gull Rune drops on runs 8053 and 8146. That makes 7 total Gull Rune drops so far into these Lower Kurast runs. 3 more mid runes drop over the next 200 LK runs. 1 rune, 1 pole rune, and 1 mal rune. I find another useful base off of a weapon rack on Lower Kurast Run 8320. It's a 41 to all resistance, gilded paladin shield. Another lem rune on LK Run 8431, and my 5th ist rune on Run 8456. Lower Kurast is really generous over the next 100 runs. I find my 14th high rune on Run 8575. It's my 4th Ohm rune. Followed by my 5th Sewer rune on LK Run 8632. I find a 2nd Ethereal Thresher off of a weapon rack 64 runs later. Another pole rune on Run 8728. On Lower Kurast Run 8836, I find my 8th Gull rune. Another useful Eth weapon base from a weapon rack 60 runs later. It's an Ethereal Belrog blade. My 6th Sewer rune drops on Run 8910. I could use all 6 Sewer runes to make Enigma at this point if I wanted to. 7 runs later, I find another Lem rune. LK Run 9114, I find my 17th High rune, which happens to be a Vex rune. I find a Godly Assassin Skiller about 50 runs later. It's a 1 to traps, 27 to life, Assassin Grand Charm. My first unique item drops on Run 9225. A unique Spired Helm drops off of a Doom Ape in one of the Lower Kurast huts. It's a 13% cold damage Nightwing's Veil. Run 9532 LK Super Chest drop me another nice skiller with plus life. It's a 1 to shapeshifting skills, 20 to life, Druid Grand Charm. 4 more mid runes drop over the next 250 Lower Kurast runs. 2 mal runes, and 2 Gull runes. Another useful jewel drops for me on Run 9835. It's a 15 to all resistance jewel. I find another unique item off of a Doom Ape 60 runs later. It's a 3% life leech, Ariat's Face. I find my last notable rune on Run 9987. The last mid rune of all 10,000 Lower Kurast runs is an rune. That wraps up the epic journey of 10,000 Lower Kurast runs. The total number of rune drops was more or less what I was expecting. I consider a Vex rune and up to be a high rune in Diablo 2, which means I found a total of 17 high runes over these 10,000 runs. This averages out to roughly 600 Lower Kurast runs per high rune. The biggest disappointment in my eyes was not actually farming a burr rune directly from Lower Kurast. That's just the way RNG in Diablo 2 can be sometimes though. The great thing about Players 8 difficulty is the number of Sur rune patterns. I found 6 Sur runes which go a long way for cubing up to burr and jaw to make rune words like Chains of Honor, Enigma, and Infinity. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 2 from the Human Bot Project series. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comment section below which area you want to see me magic find next for episode 3 from the Human Bot Project. Thanks again for watching guys, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.